One thing I've noticed about Marvel movies is that they all have the same tone. Like, to an almost eerie extent. Speaking specifically about the MCU, Marvel's contained narrative that collects all of Marvel Studios films, it becomes easy to see a pattern. Just look at the BBFC ratings. Here in Britain, every one of them carries the same 12 symbol emblazoned across their boxes, and all of them fit the description of fun, action, adventure. Now don't get me wrong, that is a gross oversimplification. And there are differences between the films, such as setting and presentation. But even basic plot beats can be seen repeated across multiple movies. Ask yourself this, for example. How many of the movies currently end with a large-scale, high-stakes, CGI-heavy battle? Oh yeah, all of them. And all of the movies currently sit in this fun level of comic bookiness, where all of the enemies can be fantastical, you know, aliens, gods, robotic Russians. And then there's Daredevil. Now Daredevil's brilliant, a real great show. But it occupies the same universe as Thor, and yet this is a show that only waits to its second episode to have a plot device where a child is kidnapped by sex traffickers. Whoa! Daredevil, calm your shit down, man. Otherwise, how the hell can you expect to coexist in a narrative that also features a Norse god teaming up with 2 super spies, a robot man, a transforming monster, and a frozen World War II veteran? Tonally, it's all over the place, and as much as I love Daredevil, I couldn't help get taken out of the experience whenever someone would make a passing and casual nod to that one time the Avengers leveled New York, as if that was just a thing that happened here. I mean, just to demonstrate how dissimilar the themes and motives are of the Daredevil show compared to the Marvel films, imagine all of these characters having a conversation at a pub after, you know, a hard day's work and how that would go down. Iron Man would be all like, I was flying through the air today, you know, shooting some aliens with me laser hand cannon thing. I just upgraded it to, you know, fire out like small suns and shit. So I thought I'd test it whilst also saving the world. You know, two birds, one stone kind of thing. It was a right ball ache trying to get them all like, but I think I did all right. Bit of a ball ache though, and thought I'd be there like, yeah. You think you've had it hard? You know that, remember that Loki lad? Aye, little green twat. Aye. Well, he teamed up with me mortal enemies, the Frost Giants. So I've been having to get like swing some deep magic hammer through the air and smash a load of giant colossal ice sculptures all day, mate, all day. And Daredevil would just be there like, I cut a dude's eye. It was class. You see, this kind of thing works in Marvel's comic book universe because that place is freaking huge. In the comics, we can have a fictional universe where Squirrel Girl and the Punisher both coexist when said fictional universe is the size of an actual universe, because we experience that crazy tonal shift in the real world. I mean, think about it. How crazy different is where I live to, say, Japan? How completely contrasting would the teenage years of someone who grew up in white middle-class America be to someone who grew up in Somalia? When the scope of something is deemed so narratively big it literally rivals that of our own known world, we get that there'd be a variety of tales to tell in all the different locations with all the different characters of that universe. But as much as the Marvel Universe claims to be a universe, it really isn't there yet. It's a medium-sized country at best. Yeah, we've seen it has multiple dimensions and planets and whatever, but everything's too connected right now because the MCU does that thing where it's always cross-referencing its own media, and that, in a way, actually makes everything feel really small, like it's all part of the exact same story. It feels like, no matter how big the world gets, the heroes will all eventually cross over and face down the same problem. And even if that's not how they're going, because of the way they cross-reference everything, it does feel like that's the setup. And Daredevil just doesn't fit this whole connected thing they've got going on. If you don't get what I mean, think about it this way. Could you see Iron Man teaming up with the Guardians of the Galaxy? Yeah, I mean, that seems reasonable, seems sensible. Could you see Daredevil doing that? No. Now here's the thing. I don't know what's going to happen in Marvel Civil War, and I don't plan on making any guesses. But what I will say is that Marvel movies need to get more tonally dissimilar before they become really stale. And I think Daredevil could help do this, whilst also expanding the MCU in a way that makes it closer to the universe scale that Marvel wants it to be, by creating a narrative where the tonal shifts actually make sense and play a part in the story. How could it possibly do that? Well, let's figure it out. Alright, let's go on the assumption that Daredevil will eventually cross over with the films in a major capacity. Now, if you think of the Avengers as the big, glamorized superheroes, they're the Kanyes of the world, big celebrities, always in the spotlight. They're saving all the major cities and all the cool touristy spots and getting all the free press from it. Now, they're heroes, yeah? Only they aren't. Not really. Because you see, they're only saving the big major cities, the places where all the rich people live. They're not even doing it consciously. It's just those are the places the media acknowledges as actually existing, so those are the places that are on their mind. Compared to the major parts of New York, Hell's Kitchen, Daredevil's residence, is completely forgotten about. And as a result, it's a fucking slum in comparison. A just dire mess of a city. It gets all the trafficking, all the drugs, all the really gritty crimes. Nothing sexy like an alien invasion. Now, any problem that might arise in Hell's Kitchen could almost immediately be solved overnight by just having Captain America come and throw his shield about, or Thor and hammer time on everybody. But they don't. Why? Because they don't care. Places around the Avengers Tower are fine, but a place like Hell's Kitchen? Not even on their to-do list. A slum like that doesn't get a superhero with magic powers. Nah. It gets a blind man with sticks. This pisses Daredevil off. Now, who do we know will soon be coming into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Spider-Man. And when he drops in, the social injustice becomes really evident. See, Spider-Man and Daredevil are practically neighbours. They're both based very much in New York, except Spider-Man's the famous one, because he's protecting all the major touristy parts. Yeah, Daredevil gets some mention in papers, but it's nothing compared to War Peter, because he has big, glamorous, epic, web-swinging battles on the grand stage of the Daily Planet. And in his time as this superhero celebrity of New York, does he ever once drop into Hell's Kitchen to stop, the child sex trafficking problem? Does he fuck? This is the straw that breaks Daredevil's back and makes him decide that he does not like the Avengers and Spider-Man. Because he is a one-man army biting off more than he can chew in a city ridden with crime, and there is a fucking superhero next door who should be his ally, and he never even sees him, no pun intended. Daredevil, in the grimier setting he occupies, has to resort to violence like eye gouging and all that other crap he does to save his shithole of a city, because in this scenario, it's the only thing to get results, especially when the police are corrupt and the superheroes just don't care. Now, inevitably, Daredevil's one-man crusade against Hell's Kitchen's criminal underworld goes a little too far. It's not that he commits murder or anything, more so that his continued torture of criminals takes him out of Hell's Kitchen and into somewhere he shouldn't go. A nice part of town, which puts him on the radar of the Avengers and Spider-Man. Now, it's probably safe to assume that Spider-Man is going to be introduced into the MCU in a film where at least one of the Avengers is already present, probably even Civil War. So let's assume that by this point, Spider-Man knows who the Avengers are through some other team-up that had absolutely nothing to do with Daredevil. Now, when he hears about Daredevil, he thinks, it's just a vigilante, I don't need to call in Tony and the boys for this, I can handle it myself. So he goes to find them. So as Spider-Man gets more and more tip-offs of this mass torturer going through New York's criminal underground, he eventually gets to a point where he can successfully track Daredevil and eventually catches him in the act of his daily grind. There's an intense stare down before they immediately trade blows. It's a close fight, but Spider-Man eventually gets the upper hand, and if we know anything about Spider-Man, it's that he's arrogant. This is a character who actively mocks the villains he faces. He knows these are mostly troubled individuals, but he takes great joy in jesting at their failed attempts to defeat him. So when he gets the chance to gloat about how much better he is than this criminal vigilante he just beat down, he can't help but deliver a patronising speech dripping with his moral superiority complex. I know you think you're on the right, but you're not. You can't torture criminals. You're no hero. Daredevil is fuming. Nah, son. Nah. You're no hero. The working class are sitting here in your back fucking garden trying not to get kidnapped off the fucking streets, and you haven't done shit. Cue massive speech from Daredevil. We know he can do this from his bit on facts in one of the early episodes of his show. There's just enough of a combination of the heated passion of a superhero and the logical reasoning of a lawyer to smash it out the park. And then the unexpected happens. Spider-Man kind of agrees with him and sees his side. Slowly but surely they build up a relationship through this that results in an eventual uneasy alliance. Now, although Spider-Man tries to help Daredevil having had his eyes open to the situation at hand, he's still morally conflicted because he wants to help, he just wants to do it on nicer terms. And when the two decide to clean up Hell's Kitchen together, there's always something a little bit problematic between them. Spider-Man thinks Daredevil's too violent, and Daredevil always pulls the "if you'd been here sooner, wouldn't have had to get to this" card. So now back with the Avengers, some big sexy shit goes down. Think giant alien robot or something like that. And they're gonna need all the help they can get, so Stark's immediately on the phone and goes, "Yo, Spider-Man, get here, lad." And Spider-Man is all ready to just go straight over, drop Hell's Kitchen like that. Big D can't believe that shit. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hang on, Spidey. You gonna fucking leave? They can handle that shit. You're needed here. You've always been needed here. Cue another speech from Daredevil. A pretty manipulative one this time, keeping in line with his morally ambiguous character and also making it so the audience isn't sure which side they're on later on. So Spider-Man is guilted into not going to help the Avengers and stays in Hell's Kitchen. Now, the Avengers manage to beat the foe without Spider-Man, but they barely make it out alive. And they are raging. So the first thing they do is gone straight to New York and gone, "Here, Spidey, what the fuck, man?" That is when they meet Daredevil. Naturally, conflict ensues, and Spider-Man is stuck in the middle of two very good arguments. Stark wants to detain Daredevil, after finding out all that's been going on here, and Spider-Man's like kind of geek, no, don't, and he's like holding Daredevil back, but also kind of confused and thinking to himself, I don't know, maybe I should hand this guy over, I'm not certain I'm doing the right thing here, and Stark's really persistent in trying to get Daredevil, who's shouting over Spider-Man's shoulder and forcing the Avengers to confront the heroes they're not. He's all like, well, you're sat in the tower, I'm here, working, I don't take days off. I have to save the people you don't deem worthy of saving. Stark, of course, just sees Daredevil as a criminal, and after Thor shifts Spider-Man out the way, Stark tries to detain Daredevil. Daredevil tries to appeal to Spider-Man's sense of right. He's shouting at him, "Who was there for you when Uncle Ben died? Wasn't the reason you became a superhero to stop injustice like this? You let these twats take us away. This city doesn't stand a chance." Spider-Man tries to struggle free, but Thor's just a lot stronger than him and keeps a hold of him. But, bait and switch, the words Daredevil was shouting there, they didn't affect Spider-Man so much as they affected Captain America. You see, the Captain has this whole revelation. We're seeing it in his eyes from the moment he got to Hell's Kitchen. He's surprised by what he's seeing. And it's just Daredevil's words there that really just bring the whole context of everything around him forth. The Cap wants to fight for America, and he thought he was doing that up till this point. But this too is America. These forgotten, poverty-ridden streets. He can't call himself a hero of the people if he abandons the people here. Stark is absolutely furious at even the suggestion that he let Daredevil go. Cap, you kidding us right now? You'd resort to letting a man like this be this city's last hope? To which Cap replies, it's because of men like us that he is this city's last hope. This is where we split and expand the universe. You see, Stark is stubborn. He doesn't want to back down on this. But the Cap is willing to fight him for it, because as much as he loves his friend, he loves America more. And in this scenario, that isn't in the Stars and Spangled Stripes sort of way, but more in the, look, we failed this city, we failed these people. Daredevil is a product of our failure, and we owe it to him and everyone here to make it up to them, because we, as Americans, should do what's right, kind of way. Hulk stands with Cap, Thor stands with Iron Man, and nobody's even really that comfortable or 100% sure they're on the side they want to be on. So from there, we go to this breakdown of sides, an almost mini Civil War type saga that ends in an uneasy truce between the two factions where they decide to leave each other to their own devices, but they aren't happy about it. Sort of like a South Korea-North Korea divide, only instead of each side being reflected by their leaders and ideologies, they are instead reflected by the different tones of their shows and movies. The characters, due to not being entirely comfortable with the side they're on, considering the morally ambiguous circumstances they've been presented with, can flip-flop their ideologies back and forth between the two sides, allowing them to both fight with and against Daredevil and presumably any other heroes that would crop up in that grimier, darker, realistic setting, as well as with and against the more comic booky goodness of the Avengers Initiative. Because the characters would then have actually addressed the weird tonal differences between their shows and films themselves, the tonal shifts then become sensical. And from here, Marvel can tell more varied tales that can cater to completely different audiences while still keeping a universe that is somewhat narratively grounded. But hey, I don't really know, I'm just spitballing. You probably have a better idea, and I'm sure as hell Marvel does. But that's just how I figure it.